DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's Thursday slate, and it's a sizable one for a Thursday night. And we got Clayton Kershaw on the hill, a lot of top options up top. So I think it's one of those nights where we're gonna have to really dig down for value bats.
Hey, you know what? They were really tough on us with this slate. I mean, when you start to look through the pricing, it seems like everyone's either slightly overvalued or right where they should be. So this is going to be an interesting night in terms of, like you mentioned, finding the value in the bats.
Yeah, there's no glaring, maybe 2 to 3 plays
No.
that are like, oh, they're so underpriced you have to play them with, in the Kershaw lineup.
Usually there is one or two at least,
Yeah, definitely. And if you're looking for info on pitchers, we have the pitcher nail down up, but kind of glossing over some guys we like. Obviously, Clayton Kershaw, David Price, Velasquez, Nelson. I know you're a big fan of as well. Obviously, going up against San Diego. One guy that we can kind of just break down real quick is Dallas Keuchel, 6,900.
Yeah.
Interesting price tag for him. We saw it with Sonny Gray the other night when he stepped into Fenway. But, I mean, you look at this Red Sox team, they haven't been tremendous against lefties. I know they hammered Oakland's, but those are Oakland's far less talented left-handers. So, I mean, Keuchel kind of an interesting play to pair up with Kershaw. I actually don't mind that move tonight.
And do you hear that? Do you hear that? Dun, 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 dun. Mike Pelfrey coming for you, pal. Throw all your Baltimore stacks out because it's going to be a party for the Baltimore Orioles tonight. So
I thought you were going to go a little bit more heavy. I thought it was going to be like a bloodbath in Baltimore. Like I thought you were really going to liven it up.
No. The analogy is going to stay relatively toned today.
Jumping right into things here, we're looking at catchers, and both you and I mean, before the show, we were kind of running through things here, and the two names that really stand out at the same price, Matt Wieters, Brian McCann, great ballparks to hit in. Obviously, Camden Yards, favorable for lefties, and Pelfrey has been absolutely hammered by them since 2014. 371 WOBA allowed, so that's talking about lefties. So obviously, Wieters certainly in play, hitting 6th or 7th in the lineup.
Yeah, no, I think those two guys are the ones you sort of zone in on as pretty reasonable values, kind of like Buster Posey the other day, where you don't necessarily have to pay down to get decent value from a good guy. So, I mean, they're both at 3,500. I think that's a pretty reasonable value for both.
Yeah, definitely. And with McCann, I mean, in Yankee Stadium, obviously, I think Keddy, could be in line for a solid start tonight, but still struggles with left-handed bats. 321 WOBA allowed since 2014, 1.21 homers per 9. Obviously, you're looking at McCann hitting third at that price tag. I have no issue paying with him in all formats.
And I will say I like the Brewers bats more than sort of what their value will lead them in roster construction for me. So I do like them tonight. They're just a little overpriced for me. So if you have a little extra and you want to pay up for one, I think that's a great idea. But at the same time, when you're looking for value, they're not really the first draft of where you're looking at.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen Lucroy. I mean, previous in that Miami series, he was like 3,300, 34. And, I know, he's facing James Shields, and that's probably the best pitcher he's faced in the last 4 days, and yet he's the highest. So,
yeah,
I think he's a great GPP play, but, I mean, that 400, I think you are going to get a little bit, you're going to be a stickler with your cash tonight.
Right.
So, anyone else you kind of see down here at catcher? I think because Wieters and McCann are so low, it's like I don't really like any of those, any of these other guys.
Yeah, not really.
So, first base here, Chris Davis kind of jumps off the map, and he's a guy who carries a daunting price tag, and that's kind of the only downside to him. But as we mentioned with Pelfrey, big WOBA out to lefties, Camden Yards, it kind of sets up a lot for a night from Crush Davis there.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that you're really playing him as a standalone play because of that price, but I think in a Baltimore stack, he's obviously essential. So that's kind of what you're looking at there. If you're making a Baltimore stack, which you certainly should be, that's kind of the move there.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of, I mean, are you looking at Miguel Cabrera for 100 less or Goldschmidt or any of those names or no?
I think that's an interesting pivot, especially in a tournament, because I think Davis probably going to be pretty chalky just with how things are lining up. But that's a little expensive for me for Cabrera.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. And jumping down here, I think we're talking about standalone guys. And I think Hosmer is kind of that standalone option for me. Fits kind of right into what I'm doing tonight for lineups. And 4,300, not too bad there. The guy's been a solid option. Hitting over 300 the last 10 games there, obviously in Yankee Stadium, that's favorable. Eovaldi, I mean, struggled with lefties, 343 woba allowed. So Hosmer, I think, great price tag, great cash game option tonight. Really, I mean, I think he's a guy who's going to fit right into my Kershaw lineups.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he's a pretty solid option, and compared to a lot of the prices tonight, he's in a pretty reasonable range. So yeah, as a standalone option, definitely intriguing and could definitely keep up with those top few options as well. So I like that.
Definitely. And I mean, another Brewer bat here, Chris Carter.
Right.
Shields has been hammered by right-handed pitching. So I think you can definitely look at Carter as a really a GPP swerve. And he's kind of one of the Brewers bats that is remotely underpriced. I guess you could say he's still a little bit more expensive for my taste, but in comparison to the other Brewers, he works out.
Yeah, with Shields, he's 309 Woba since 2014, so he's kind of been struggling. But again, they're weirdly priced like almost more. So, I mean, I think Milwaukee, those guys are all in play, but again, it's not perfect situation either.
Yeah, definitely. One guy I like here is Brandon Moss down low. 3,500. I think he's another one. If I can't quite get to Hosmer, I have no problem going with Moss. I mean, solid year here so far with the Cardinals. 365 WOBA, 260 ISO against right-handers. And then you look at Weaver. I mean, you just can't really get it done anymore. Has a ton of home runs, 1.35 home runs per nine to lefties. So I think Moss is in a solid spot there, and I think at that price tag, hitting in that lineup, he should do pretty well tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, any other options you like there?
Not. I mean, so we kind of mentioned before the show about this Astros team and going up against David Price tonight and how it's kind of tough because Price hasn't been great this year, and maybe there is some value with this Astros lineup in terms of tournaments. So, I mean, this guy Marwin Gonzalez is still 2,700, and he's actually been doing pretty well lately. So, if you're really looking deep, he might be a guy you kind of throw in there for a tournament just to make the salary work. But other than that, I don't really see much.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good call. I think we're kind of looking at Houston as like an all or nothing type play against Price, who really hasn't been great this season. So definitely something to consider there.
Right.
Second base here, and another Astro kind of headlines the top one, 5,300, Jose Altuve. I tossed out his name, and the first thing that you didn't like was that price tag, and I certainly agree. 5,300 against Price in Fenway is. You're hoping for him to be a little bit lower, but I think he's still a solid GPP option, especially if you're working in that Houston stack.
Yeah, I'm with you again. It's a decent play, but that price kind of annoys me.
You were hoping to get him more like a Correa price tag, and
yeah,
I mean, the way Price has been, I mean, 352 WOBA allowed to right-handers this year, and obviously Altuve crushes lefties. So, I mean, it is something to consider. I think if you're paying down, you're not going up to Kershaw, I think Altuve is definitely kind of worth a look in tournament formats. But looking at cash game guys, you like Ian Kinsler's matchup here. You like it in Camden Yards, but once again, I think I'm more annoyed with the Ian Kinsler salary than I am with Altuve.
Right, because it'd be the one night you'd actually be really looking hard to play him, and it kind of takes him out of play a little bit. I mean, I don't really view him as a standalone guy, so maybe if you play a Detroit stack, But I don't know. Do you see him as a standalone guy? Or are you really just looking at him in stacks?
I'm just looking at him in stacks. I mean, I can't justify you know, paying a 5,000 guy when Machado's right there next door. I mean,
Right.
at 5,400, I think that's the thing. Or paying for Chris Davis, because
Mhm.
you got to look at that too. I mean, you're not necessarily paying a 5K just at second base. You're also maybe paying for a 5K guy elsewhere, and there's far better options than Kinsler.
Right. Yep. With you. I think at this point, I'm okay with Pedroia with whatever you want to do with him. This Boston lineup is going nuts. Obviously, Kuchel's not a bad arm, but I think all these Red Sox are definitely in play right now. There's just everyone's doing so well. So.
Yeah, definitely. Pedroia's the guy who's handled lefties well in his career.
Mhm.
Spinning down, Chase Utley, kind of the guy who I'm looking at. I know Bartolo Colon's been, in the Cy Young running this season, I guess you could say. And, Utley leading off. I mean, he's hit well against right-handed bats this season, or pitching this season. At
Yeah.
that price tag, I think it's fairly nice. He kind of fits in that mid-range for those Kershaw lineups.
Oh, if we had fan voting right now, he'd easily be number one for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, number one All-Star.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he
across.
would, he would be the face of baseball. He would be on the next MLB The Show,
Oh man,
which I
with
think
his
needs to happen anyway. He should just be on the MLB The Show cover.
yeah, with his batting helmet like tipped halfway up. But Aaron Hill, again, another Brewer bat, semi-intriguing tonight. Pretty cheap on second base. So
Yeah, and I mean, he's a guy who burned you the other night when you were sitting pretty and Hill's
mhm.
going up there hitting triple homers.
Yeah,
You
that
want to
was.
relive the glory days.
I don't. For those of you that remember that slate, it was like a week or two ago. Robinson Cano went off that night, and he was slowly just topped by this Aaron Hill fella. So if you had Cano that night, you felt the pain too.
Yeah, I mean, he got production for miles cheaper. But
I actually think Starlin Castro is in play as well tonight. Is a pretty cheap price. Obviously, you're not looking at the biggest upside for him, but if you're looking for like 7 to 10 points, I think that's pretty reasonable for him tonight.
yeah, definitely. I definitely don't mind this matchup. So I'm definitely with you there. 3,100, he's been hitting the top of the lineup, so definitely a solid call there. Third base, Manny Machado is a guy who I'm going to try and find a way to get into my lineups, even at that price tag. I mean, 5,400, it's steep, but obviously this guy just absolutely mashing this season. I mean, it's so hard to get him out of your lineup, and against a guy like Mike Pelfrey, who's 345 WOBA allowed since 2014 at righties. Machado just seems like the top hitter on the slate for me tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's in terms of floor and ceiling, I don't think there's anyone really close. Maybe Chris Davis with his ceiling, but yeah, in terms of everything, I think Machado's pretty much the safest guy on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I'm trying to plug Kershaw and him into a lineup at the beginning and see what I can work around them. And I mean, hopefully that pans out. I think there are some decent options in the outfield that kind of allow us to do that.
Yep.
But there are some guys to spin down to. I don't have a problem with Nick Castellanos or Matt Carpenter here.
Matt Carpenter, yep. Looking in that mid 4K range, I think they're pretty solid values.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like I'll be a little bit bummed if I miss out on Machado and a Kershaw lineup, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm determined to do it. But Castellanos and Carpenter, nice spin down options there. Both are hitting the ball well in good spots. The only thing you don't like about Carpenter is the ballpark, but it's not really turning me off of him.
Right.
And there are some guys here that we've touched on already. Guys like Aaron Hill, who's in a solid spots. Marwin Gonzalez already, 2,700. So there are some value guys there. One name that also sticks out is Mikel Franco, 3,400. I mean, he's struggling a little bit, but obviously facing Aaron Blair, who is a cheap option tonight going up against the Phillies. Doesn't miss a ton of bats, and Franco has those reverse splits, so I think he's certainly intriguing.
Yeah, and again, high in the lineup, they've been just throwing him in there, so he's going to get plenty of opportunity. And yeah, you mentioned the reverse splits, so solid option.
Yeah. Moving on to shortstop here, and I mean, there's some notable names up top. Once again, you have the luxury of playing Manny Machado at shortstop on DraftKings. But I still think Bogarts for a grand less is in a good spot here. 4,400, still a little bit pricey, but obviously Dallas Keuchel hasn't been great this season. I think if I'm not playing him, which I might be tonight, I'm looking at Bogarts there.
Yeah, rock solid. This whole Red Sox lineup right now. So, and he's been one of the main guys. So yeah, definitely like that call.
Yeah, I mean, a 476 Woba off lefties this season, 222 ISO, so absolutely crushing. I mean, shortstop, one of the Brewers' name that stands out, and I know we'll talk about him more on the FanDuel pop, but Jonathan Villar, 4K, a little pricey for me going up against James Shields, who,
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't been great, against lefties. 335 Woba, allowed 1.24 home runs per nine. Obviously, Miller Park helps out a lot. I just wish he was a bit cheaper. I really wanted to play him tonight, but
I think there's still a move for if you just make a lineup with a whole Brewers stack and you just say, all right, I'm eating all this salary just because I think I like their offense tonight. But yeah, just in general, kind of makes you feel uncomfortable with just all their prices,
yeah, it's tough to roster some of these guys at the price tags that we're usually accustomed to paying for them.
Yeah, exactly.
One guy I do like, Corey Seager down below 3,700. I think that's why I don't like Villar should not be priced above Seager, but overall Seager against Cologne. I know Cologne's been pretty solid this season, but merely average against lefties. I like Seager up there hitting second, hitting over 300 in the last 10 days. A very solid cash game and GPP option tonight for that price tag.
Definitely.
Looking cheaper, I think Alcides Escobar is about as low as I'm going to go. I mean, 3,300. I know Eovaldi's tough around right-handers, but leadoff man at that price tag in a reasonable total tonight, I don't mind Escobar.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And what about the Grichuk? What do you think about him tonight?
He's another guy we're paying down. I mean, we'll jump right into outfield because those Cardinals offense. I mean, they got some value guys, and Grichuk's another one. We'll definitely be looking at. I mean, at that price tag, I mean, it's really hard to use him or not use him in a lineup at 3,200, especially with Weaver. I mean, out there kind of just chugging along, trying to get through that finish line of a career that he had. So it's like, I like Grichuk a lot. I mean, over at 200 ISO since 2014, 355 Woba. So a solid option for me. So looking at top options, though, at outfield, I mean, we'll kind of run down the list here. Obviously, Mark Trumbo, Adam Jones stand in as, some of the top options. Mike Trout, kind of an interesting guy because I know I'm not quite sure how many people are going to be on him tonight. And I know kind of paying up at outfield would be tough tonight because you're probably looking at Kershaw and still Velasquez and Price.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in a great matchup against Wainwright, who just doesn't have swing and miss stuff right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of been doing this for a week now where it's like, all right, Trout's a great standalone play because he's Mike Trout. And tonight he actually has a pretty solid matchup, so even more so tonight. And his price is a little lower than normal, so I'm okay with this tonight. And I mean, obviously the results haven't been there lately, but I think that should turn around.
Yeah, definitely. One guy, another Cardinals guy, Stephen Piscotty, 4,100. You're more expensive Cardinals outfielder, but he kind of fits right in. I think this trio of Moss, Holiday, Piscotty, Grichuk are kind of a good core tonight because they have solid points per dollar value against Weaver and kind of just fit right into those Kershaw lives pretty nicely.
Right.
But looking at other guys here.
Adam Jones in play again tonight. Obviously, he's been streaking the last 2 days, but before that, there was a long stretch of just nothing. So I think you play him based on the matchup tonight, but obviously not expecting 20-plus point performances again.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is his upside, though, tonight against Pelfrey. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting that again, but also, I mean, he's in a great spot.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of that, I mean, you're kind of focused in on Cardinals and Orioles guys. One guy who I'm looking at as well down low is Chris Young against Keuchel. Chris Young's hammered left-handed pitching in his career. Obviously, in the spot tonight at Fenway, he's going to just be a punt play. Probably hitting sixth in the lineup again. Over 400 WOBA against lefties last year. This year, same thing. Big 211 ISO. I mean, he's had a strong series against lefties in this Oakland. I know Keuchel's obviously better, but still, I'm allowing a 3.39 WOBA to right-handers. So Young is certainly in play for me at another cheap price tag.
Yeah, and I think with Brock Holt and Jackie Bradley Jr., they're kind of tough to. I don't know what to do with them right now. I mean, I think they're worth punt plays in tournaments now, at least. Obviously, you don't like playing guys that deep in the lineup, but I mean, they've shown some serious upside the last few days, and in a decent matchup tonight with a guy who's been blow up prone this year, I think they're in play as sort of standalone guys.
I mean, Bradley Jr. has been a guy. I mean, on the games he's broken out, I've never expected it because he's facing a lefty, and
Yeah.
last night I wasn't on him. Game before I wasn't on him. It's like maybe he's onto something. I mean, he's so locked in. I mean, he's hitting over 400 the last 10 games, 5 homers. I mean, he's had 13 RBIs in the last 3 games. It's stupid. I mean, it really is.
So, while again, it's still not optimal to have a guy that late in the order. I mean, maybe they move him up today. But either way, I think for tournaments, I think it's an intriguing option, and they're not too expensive yet. 3,700. It's getting up there. Obviously, you don't want to pay $4K for a guy batting 8th or something, but I think it's in play.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm definitely with you there. I mean, the way he's producing right now, certainly worth a look, especially if you're building multiple lineups.
Yeah.
Some guys in that area, Joey Ricard, Alex Gordon, who talked about Eovaldi struggles with lefties. Gordon hitting 5th lately, so I like him. Also, Ricard leading off of that Baltimore stack, certainly playable in all formats.
Brandon Moss in play for both first base and outfield for you.
Yeah, so it's really nice there. Anyone else you feel like we missed here in the outfield?
I mean, Matt Holliday obviously hasn't been that strong this year, but has a good matchup tonight against Weaver.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once again, I mean, that points per dollar value with those Cardinals outfielders just feels pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.